remove barriers when you're beginning to build accessible courses? As John said, I'm April Durrence. I'm an instructional designer with the Office of the State Controller's Learning and Development team. And I'm going to turn my camera off just to make it easier on me, but we're going to keep going. So I love this quote by Dr. Oliver Sacks, a well-known British neurologist and author. And we have an opportunity to broaden the way that we think about disability, normalizing it as part of the human condition and accommodating the needs of all users before being asked, including people with all types of disability. And we may not always know whether our family, friends, and neighbors, work colleagues, and students have disabilities. In May 2023, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reported that up to 1 in 4 adults, or 27% of the population in the United States, has some type of disability. And a 2020 survey by Accenture noted that 76% of employees with disabilities did not fully disclose their disabilities at work, and 80% of C-suite executives and their direct reports with disabilities also do not fully disclose them. When we talk about digital accessibility, we're specifically focused on serving people with disabilities, but when we make things accessible, it often helps everyone else too. Sometimes a student may disclose that they have a disability and ask for an accommodation, but you often won't know the challenges your students are dealing with, whether they have a disability or something else going on in their lives. So it's helpful to everyone if we plan accordingly. I don't build a course for the best student I can imagine. I plan for students who may have an undisclosed disability or maybe only slept 3 hours the night before completing training. They may have come to work sick, stressed, or dread the changes that a course represents. Accessibility includes meeting people where they are rather than assuming everyone has the same ability to access digital or other informational spaces. As a society, we can work to ensure that people with disabilities are treated with respect and dignity and have the same right and ability to participate as those without disabilities in everyday life and employment. When we are designing courses for our state of North Carolina community, accessibility shouldn't be an afterthought. It should be part of the plan from the beginning. Planning and preparation save time and effort. Sometimes we may need to create a course on the fly. I don't know if that's ever happened to anybody. It certainly happened to me. Some elements will be unique for each course, but we can create resources right now that will make it easier to create a course the next time we need to. So if you regularly create courses, consider developing a training plan outline ahead of time that you can fill in with your specifics for each training project, describing the courses you need to create. Once you have a specific project, the training plan should define clear, action-oriented course objectives, what someone should be able to do, not just what they need to know after they complete each course. This will help you begin to outline the course. A detailed outline and storyboard for each course helps shorten development time considerably. This includes input from your SMEs or subject matter experts and all the content approvals you need before you start building the course. Starting your authoring process with an approved storyboard means you know exactly which media and other assets you need to create or gather in terms of images and screenshots, videos, narration, demos, scenarios, and any other content you want to include. Ensure those who gather or create those assets are doing so with accessibility standards in mind. Having a style guide and designing accessible templates for your chosen authoring tools gives you another head start. You can create reusable templates with accessible features built into your design in Articulate 360, Adobe Captivate, PowerPoint, or any other presentation tool. We'll take a closer look at some of those features in a few minutes. All of this preparation is particularly important if you're working with a third-party vendor for any part of your course development or delivery. The training plan stage is the easiest time to make decisions that will have a big impact and can save many, many hours of work fixing draft versions of courses after they've been fully developed. Forethought and clear communication means we can incorporate accessibility considerations in the choices we make about content development, delivery, and evaluation. At OSC, our audience includes employees from agencies throughout the state who need security roles to work in the integrated HR payroll system or the North Carolina financial system, NCFS. Since the pandemic, we have shifted away from in-person training. Our courses are either live virtual instructor-led training, VILTs, or asynchronous e-learning, which we call WBTs for web-based training. For the virtual instructor-led training courses, we have traditionally used PowerPoint as our presentation medium, but we're transitioning to Rise 360 for those VILT courses and student guides. We also administer assessments via the LMS for those VILT courses, and for our web-based training courses, we use Articulate 360, either Rise or Storyline, with assessments built into the course. If your agency is contracting with an external vendor to develop courses or other digital resources, keep in mind that they don't always have or hire accessibility experts. So be sure your procurement contract and training plan include precise language about conformance with WCAG 2.1 level AA requirements at minimum. And the contract should also include conforming to your accessible agency style guide. Be prepared to hold their feet to the fire to ensure they comply and check their work with your own accessibility experts. Starting with a detailed, comprehensive, and fully approved outline and storyboard saves time. Since correcting content and format issues after the course has been fully drafted takes exponentially longer than correcting them at the storyboard stage. Every content change on a fully drafted course may mean replacing text, audio, video, images, etc. That requires a new round of evaluation and testing to ensure those changes don't cause accessibility issues. When you're developing a course outline and storyboard, keep in mind that your students will not be fully engaged during every moment of training. Don't assume comfort or expertise with technology, or expect people to make intuitive leaps of understanding for anything that you don't explicitly say and show. Provide linear instructions that include every step as you're explaining the process, as if you're explaining the process to a new employee who doesn't know anything about their new job. This can be particularly important for people with cognitive or memory disabilities. It's also beneficial to many people, whether they have a disability or not, to present information in multiple ways using text, audio, and video. You can give students an opportunity to review and practice in different ways using something like demos, practice simulations, or hands-on activities as appropriate to the course. Here's a quick but detailed example of a storyboard created just using an Excel spreadsheet. The column headers are scene, slide number and title, text on slide, narration, media, and alt text. I filled in 3 rows to represent 3 slides in Storyline. Storyboarding may seem like an extra step, and it certainly isn't as attention-grabbing as creating directly in your authoring tool, but it's a good way to refine your content with minimal time investment. You can use Excel, Word, PowerPoint, or any other software or format you like for your storyboard. Here are a couple of slides someone shared that were created using ChatGPT in PowerPoint. Because we at OSC often use Rise 360 for our courses, and it's already formatted to be accessible, we can easily use it to storyboard a course with a basic outline and add our media assets later. We can even upload content documents and have Articulate's built-in AI develop an outline and draft a course for us. The drafting element is a new feature that I've been experimenting with, but it produces a formulaic design that does still require a good bit of review and editing, but it's a place to start. So you can use whatever tool you prefer and get as creative as you want to be with your outline and storyboard prep to minimize changes as you begin creating and gathering your media assets. All the media and other course assets you include must, of course, be accessible. I can't begin to cover all the WCAG standards as they apply to course development, but I will share some of the more common things to consider. Make sure images and screenshots are large and clear. Consider low vision users who may need to magnify. Resizing your images during course development can make them blurry or fuzzy. To ensure students are following the process steps for technical training, like we develop at OSC, you may need to have establishing shots that show you the big picture and then zoom in for close-ups for video or images. We frequently use markers, callouts, or outlines to draw attention to the relevant details or buttons that students will need to select. Video requires correct timing with accurate captions and descriptive audio. Descriptive link text cannot be raw URLs or use click here language. So you want to give a very specific text that tells students where they're going. Print resources or attachments must also be fully accessible. HTML is best, then Word or Google Docs. PDF is a last resort because it's the most time-consuming to make accessible with all the tags necessary. Our OSC instructors and web team are working hard to convert hundreds of help documents from PDF to HTML and are doing a fantastic job to meet that April 2026 deadline. Always prepare your students up front by telling them what you're about to show them, what they are expected to do, and how long all of it is expected to take. Then recap each lesson or section of training. Ungraded reviews, knowledge checks, etc., where answers are provided without penalty, are particularly helpful when there will be a graded assessment at the end, requiring users to achieve a certain score to pass the course. Avoid timed deadlines, that's a WCAG requirement, and allow for less structured follow-up as much as possible. So I have some tips here about using plain language, active versus passive voice, to avoid slang and idioms, explain your jargon and define your acronyms, and avoid ableist terms. So instead of using look, see, or watch, you can say explore, examine, or observe. Instead of walk, run, or step, progress or advance. Listen here, you can use review or attend, and instead of click, you can use select or choose. When we're talking about images, we want this image, not this image. So this bottom image is not in the original aspect ratio, and the text is far too small and distorted to read easily, even if you zoom in. Any relevant text images should be large enough for low vision users to read, should be equivalent to Arial 12-point font or larger. And for screen reader users, must be replicated in some combination of alt text, text on screen, audio narration, transcript, or some combination. Our training screenshots often include text because of the types of software we're using. So we need to consider how we can best convey that information, usually in alt text, but we can also repeat it elsewhere. Alt text depends on context and should mention the important, relevant information conveyed by the image to a sighted person. Images that don't convey any meaningful information or content to the presentation can usually be marked as decorative. If we're taking a look at this screenshot, we could use reflow to our advantage if we were going to retake the screenshot. When we're capturing browser-based content for our screenshots, we can scale down the screen before grabbing that screenshot to eliminate wasted space. So we could potentially scale down and eliminate some of this blank middle space and make our image larger so that it's more readable. Captions and descriptive audio must be included in all of our videos. We have to include captions that include descriptions of non-dialogue sounds, such as music, applause, a crash in the background, or a scream, etc., and descriptive audio for any visual action that's not conveyed by the audio, such as one character sneaking up behind another one in a movie. For our instructional videos, we try to describe all the actions that we're taking on screen as part of the demo narration. So we're telling people exactly what we're doing, where we're clicking, where we're entering text, that kind of thing. We use automated captioning tools for our videos, but we also need to review and edit to ensure they're correct and correctly timed. So on screen, you can see this is an example of a storyline segment of closed captioning. So we often need to make the individual caption segments, make sure they're not too long and that they end in a natural stopping place like a comma or period, because the software will just stop wherever in the phrase. I have other video tips for Storyline and Camtasia, which I'll be happy to share if anyone wants to reach out to me. Another time-saving strategy is to create accessible templates and have them ready to go when you're developing courses, or to provide to vendors along with your agency style guide that includes your accessibility requirements. Make sure your course template is using the latest version of the software. For example, Storyline updates frequently, so we need to update our template just as frequently. Use all built-in accessibility tools for the design process and provide them for the user as well. Accessibility comes before design. Stunning design that's inaccessible is not an acceptable trade-off, for me anyway. You may include accessible alternatives for an inaccessible element, but it can't be an inferior substitute. It must provide the same quality of experience for the user. Use built-in accessibility checkers. Storyline has one now. And check for accessibility when you've finished creating your template and throughout the course build, and then follow up with more testing after all content has been added once you're on your final draft. Here are some examples of the accessibility features in Storyline. The image on the left shows that player controls are all turned on except for the search function. So that means that students taking a course control everything except for that search feature. Because our course navigation is restricted, users can't use that search feature to jump around, so it wouldn't work very well for them until they've already completed the entire course. They do have complete control over the play-pause function, volume, captions, playback speed, accessibility controls, full screen option, and they can also drag the seek bar on the player to review. The image on the right shows the player background is dark, and the accessibility focus uses two colors, yellow and blue, to provide good contrast with any background color. The navigation controls for previous and next use the words as well as the arrow icons and are at 125% magnification. Closed captions are white text on black at the bottom of the screen using the sans serif font Lato magnified to 150%. You can move closed captions to the top of the screen. It just depends on the particular information in your slide or in your course, because it's set for the course, not slide by slide. Always apply appropriate, consistent heading structure. Use styles when available. That's available in all of your Windows applications, all your Microsoft applications, I should say. As a general rule, sans serif fonts are preferable to serif fonts, and text size should be a minimum of 12 point or 16 pixels. But larger is better for presentations. So, for example, the title on this slide is Arial Headings font size 36, and the bullets are also Arial size 24. The image shown on this slide is set as shows you that the slide title, this lesson title objectives, is set to heading level 2, and this is in Storyline styles. Most digital pieces or courses should only have one heading 1, and then you go down the scale, heading 2, heading 3, you don't skip. So that's just another part of WCAG. For our OSC style guide, I researched and compared our colors to ensure they would work well together and meet WCAG contrast standards, which require a contrast ratio of at least 4.5 to 1, except for large scale text, 18 point or larger, or 14 point bold text. They should have a contrast ratio of at least 3 to 1. Color contrast ratio requirements apply to text, links, and graphical elements, so buttons, arrows, outlines, etc., that are essential for understanding the content or functionality. As John Cotter conveyed beautifully in his presentation last month, don't use color alone to convey meaning. Be sure to use words or symbols like correct, incorrect, or an X and a check mark, along with color to provide additional context. WebAIM, Web Accessibility in Mind from the Institute for Disability Research, Policy and Practice at Utah State University provides a clear explanation of contrast requirements as well as an excellent contrast checker tool. And the tool that I used for building our resources here is now called Direct Edges. And so our entire palette is here, and it compares it against each other, so you can see it's like a whole big graph. So it's a great tool to use, and I provided a link here. Built-in accessibility checkers are great, and you should use them, but they aren't enough. Test with some of the tools that students with disabilities will use in your course. Magnify your screen to 200% and see how the text and images look. Resize your screen so that, if someone is using a mobile phone or is blowing things up, they can still see things well. Make sure that things resize. That's really helpful. Learn to use a screen reader or two. If you don't have access to JAWS, which is expensive, use the built-in screen reader narrator on your Windows PC or download NVDA, a free screen reader. They post their keyboard shortcuts so you can learn to apply them. Also, have users with disabilities test your courses, and be sure to follow up on any reports of problems from users. Most of all, be a proactive learner when it comes to accessibility. There are so many training resources out there. I'll be sharing the ones I find useful along with other tips and tricks at the WeAreNC.gov conference on November 19th, as already mentioned, and I hope you'll come out to talk to me and share yours with me. I created a collection of LinkedIn Learning accessibility courses that you can explore if you're so inclined, and that link is on screen as well. Most of us are still learning, so we shouldn't be afraid to ask for help from each other, and we should always accept constructive feedback. I think progress over perfection is a common accessibility slogan, and I love it. So, do we have any questions? I'm happy to try to answer some. And as I said, I'll be bringing more tips, tricks, and things that I can show to the conference, so I can show off my, my style guide that we use at OSC. I can show you my storyline template. And so please feel free to ask any questions if I can help.
April, that was incredible. I can help you with some questions, and I have some of my own too.
Sure.
Let's see. In the chat, Karen is asking if she could contact you because
Absolutely.
she does articulate storyline.
Yep, I just posted my contact information here, so Karen, feel free to reach out, and anybody else, feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to share information and learn from other people too, so please do.
Okay, awesome. And if there's more questions, keep them coming in the chat. In the meantime, I'll ask mine, April.
Yeah.
So for the auto captioning, What
Mhm.
tool do you like the most based on your experience? What's the most accurate and requires the least amount of fiddling after it's done its job?
Well, actually, one of the great tools that I often use is Stream in Microsoft or SharePoint. So it will auto generate a transcript for you. You have to just tell it to create that transcript. You can export it as a Word document or a VTT document. Um, and then if I am creating video, I usually use Camtasia. I that was the thing I used first. We also have access to the Adobe Creative Cloud, so I could use their tools, and I have from time to time, but I just know Camtasia very well. So I usually use that. And then I have to convert that file to an SRT file. And there's a free tool online that I use for that. And so then I can import it into Camtasia after I've completed all of my editing.
Okay, got it. So it sounds like there's a lot of tools that does the auto captioning. Are they all about equal, would you say, or are some more accurate than others?
My
Y-
experience is they're pretty good. They're bad with names. They're bad with acronyms.
Mhm.
Sometimes people's accents or way, manner of speaking can make them a little weird. So actually, when I upload it, I'll put it in my OneDrive. If I have a video that I'm wanting to add captions to, I'll put it in my OneDrive. I'll do that transcript. I can actually edit it in Stream and then export the file so that it's more correct and it's also better timed. But then once I put that SRT file in Camtasia, I still have to refine further to make sure that everything is lined up correctly with the actual narration or the presentation in the video. So it does take some work to get it really nice and make sure it's accurate. Yeah, it doesn't
Absolutely.
meet. I saw Nicole's comment. It does not meet WCAG standards if you don't take those extra steps. Yeah, so you have to add in the speaker if you have a situation where the speakers are switching. So some of our webinars will have multiple presenters, and so I will put that in square brackets to say who's speaking at the time, and change to a new segment so that it doesn't get confusing about who said what. And so all of that work still has to be done, but the auto captioning really helps because you don't have to type everything yourself. So
Mhm. My next question is, so I saw that slide that had all that big list of all the colors and everything, and
mhm,
it looks like a lot of care went into building that. I'm sure there's a lot of
it
work went
did.
into that. And
Yeah,
you said you used the Lato font. I've never actually heard of that. Why? What's
that's
special
oops.
about that font?
That just happens to be the one that comes up, but you can change it. So in Storyline, you can change the font to be whichever one you prefer.
Okay, so that's just a storyline default. You're not necessarily recommending it, but it's okay as it is. Is that
Yeah,
kind
it's
of
okay. I mean, I often the font I usually use in my presentation is Open Sans,
Open
but
Sans? Yeah, that's I've heard of that one.
yeah. So you can use whichever one you prefer, but it's nice to use ones that are sans serif and that have, I mean, you can get unbelievably deep when you talk about
Oh yeah.
text and the way that the C's are, how open or closed they are, how close the letters are to each other. So it's a whole thing. Google has a great resource for delving deeply into that. But yeah, you can change that. The Lato is slightly narrower for captions. That seems to work well, but people may differ. So
Hmm.
we all have our preferences there.
Karen Clark in the chat asked, does providing learners with a play pause button in Articulate meet the requirement that users must have control over when the media starts and stops?
That's my understanding. Now, we try, for the most part, not to have any slides automatically start. There are some times when it may make sense to have a video, if we've prepped users and let them know, maybe with a preliminary slide that a video is going to play, then we may have that automatically start. But otherwise, none of our slides automatically advance in our current training. Some of our old training that did happen, but we are correcting that. And I did post in the chat the LinkedIn Learning, so hopefully that will be helpful. Yes, I saw that session, Nicole, that you mentioned about the fonts. It's a very detailed area. Oh, and thank you, Dashita, for posting that link to Google. I'm happy to answer any other questions. If not, I'll hand it back to John.
Okay, yeah, if there's more questions, go ahead and ask them. And Heather was asking in the chat, wanted to bring up, you want to talk about what you wanted to talk about, Heather?
Yes, I did bring this up yesterday in an email, and I thought this group would be an appropriate place to bring it up as well. I wanted to throw out a suggestion that would make the upcoming wearenc.gov conference fully accessible to everyone, particularly people with disabilities and medical conditions that in-person attendance can be medically risky for them, where they're having to make a decision on whether to attend or to protect their health. Um, and that, of course, was in April's presentation, which is to make the event hybrid, to live stream it. Um, I know that the DIT Innovation Day in June was live streamed, and that allowed me to participate, which I really appreciated. The Smashing Conference New York City web conference recently was hybrid, which allowed me to attend. I have not been able to attend a wearenc.gov conference in several years now because it is in person only. So I just wanted to throw that suggestion out there. I do appreciate that there'll be a recording available afterwards, but that means I do have to wait days or so to be able to fully participate, while my colleagues who are planning to attend in person will have gotten that information sooner. And that's what I wanted to say.
I hear you, Heather. Absolutely. I think it's important.
I will take this one, John.
Go ahead.
I appreciate you voicing your concern, and we will look into this option. The Innovation Day, it was Microsoft who was helping to set up things. We are going to explore the quality of Wi-Fi in the atrium area when we will be there, and understand if this is the possibility to broadcast events from there. We usually take time to post all the recordings with quality transcripts after every event. If you go to our registration page, you can see that everywhere in CGov had really detailed recordings available. But this is a good point, and we will work on following up on your request. Thank you.
Thanks, Elena. I appreciate the consideration. And, like I said, it's just a gentle suggestion for the future.
Yeah, we were successful in getting a sign language interpreter duo to come to the conference. So that was a huge win. Okay, any other questions about today's presentation or anything else anyone wanted to share? Victories, troubles, challenges?
I would like to bring attention to newly updated digital accessibility section on DIT website that is much more expanded. And John, I will share a
Okay,
link.
Yep, it's in the chat right now. Yeah, so we, on the it.nc.gov website, there's a whole bunch of fresh new content there under digital accessibility. So a lot of good information there. Check that out. Definitely turn your attention to, or I'll share my screen. How about it.nc.gov/ if you just go to accessibility, it'll redirect you there. But I would say definitely draw your attention to this web content area. If you're into web content, there's a lot of good information here, and it's an easy read to help you understand all these WCAG requirements. Even gets into some development guidance, and also the document side of things has some really good resources to help you create accessible PDFs, answer some frequently asked questions. And I'm quite proud of this page here, strategy to remediate a large PDF library. If you're in charge of a large PDF library and you don't know where to get started, this is a great resource to help you find a plan to do it. Yeah, so check out that new content. The link is in the chat there. And share it too. Okay, well, we'll go ahead and close today's session. Thanks everyone for attending. And we'll be posting this recording and slide deck pretty soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, thank you, April. All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.